For 2,000 years, the world's smartest people believed heavy objects fell faster than light ones because one man named Aristotle said so in the year 350 BCE. Nobody actually bothered to check if he was right. Then, a few rebels decided to stop guessing and start testing, changing how we see reality forever. But how did a mistake that big last for 20 centuries? Welcome to History Bites, where we take the wildest, weirdest, most jaw-dropping moments in history and explain them fast. If you love the kind of history that sounds impossible but actually happened, subscribe. Imagine living in a world where you never perform a single experiment in school. You do not have chemistry labs or physics projects. Instead, your teacher hands you one ancient book and tells you that everything inside is 100% true because the author was a genius. This was life for students for nearly 2,000 years. This era existed long before your great-great-grandparents were born, stretching all the way back to ancient Greece. Aristotle was the ultimate influencer of his time. He was so famous that people called him the philosopher. If Aristotle said a heavy rock falls faster than a light pebble, people believed it. They did not test it. They did not drop two rocks. They assumed his logic was perfect. Now this is where history gets genuinely strange. Aristotle believed everything in the universe had a natural place where it wanted to be. He thought rocks fell because they wanted to be near the center of the earth. He thought smoke rose because it wanted to be in the sky. To him, it made sense that a heavier object would have a stronger desire to reach the ground, so it must move faster. Imagine if your smartphone had a personality and decided it wanted to be on the charger so badly that it flew across the room. That is the kind of logic the entire world followed. Most people don't know this part, but for centuries, challenging Aristotle was not only considered wrong, it was considered a sign that you were not very smart. Here's the part nobody puts in textbooks. The world stayed in this scientific deep freeze for a massive chunk of human history. From the Roman Empire through the Middle Ages, scholars spent their time reading old books instead of looking at the stars or the dirt. They were like gamers trying to play a high-tech survival game using a manual written for a board game from the 1970s. The information was outdated, but it was the only manual they had. This period of history is known for its massive cathedrals and epic knights, but when it came to how the physical world functioned, everyone was essentially guessing. Then comes the year 1589. A young, stubborn math professor named Galileo Galilei arrives at the University of Pisa. Galileo is the kind of person who asks why until people get annoyed. He hears the same old lesson, heavy things fall faster. He looks at a gold coin and a silver coin and wonders if the universe really works that way. And here's where it gets really wild. Legend says he climbs to the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He carries two spheres made of the same material, but one is much heavier than the other. A crowd of students and professors watches from below. They expect the heavy one to slam into the dirt first. Galileo lets go. Both weights hit the ground at exactly the same time. The sound of that double thud changed history. It proved that gravity pulls on everything at the same rate, regardless of weight. Stop and think about that for a second. 2,000 years of expert knowledge was wiped out in about 3 seconds of falling time. This was the spark that ignited the scientific revolution. It was the moment humanity realized that observation is more powerful than authority. But Galileo was not alone. Other rebels were starting to pop up across Europe. A man named Francis Bacon argued that we should stop sitting in chairs, thinking about how things might work, and start getting our hands dirty. He helped develop what we now call the scientific method. Think of the scientific method like a professional video game walkthrough. It provides a specific set of steps that anyone can follow to get the same result. You observe a problem, you make a guess called a hypothesis, you test it with an experiment, and you look at the data. If the data says you are wrong, you change your mind. This sounds normal today, but back then, changing your mind based on evidence was a revolutionary act. And the craziest thing, it actually worked. Once people started using the scientific method, the world transformed at a record-breaking pace. Before this, technology moved at a crawl. After the scientific revolution, humans discovered how blood circulates through the body, how the planets move around the sun, and how tiny invisible microbes cause diseases. We went from believing that bad smells caused sickness to understanding germs because we started using microscopes to see what was actually there. It was like the world finally put on a pair of glasses and realized everything had been blurry for 2 millennia. The big reveal happened when scientists realized that the universe follows mathematical rules. It is not based on the desires of objects or the guesses of ancient philosophers. It is a giant, complex machine that we can understand if we ask the right questions. This shift in thinking is why you have a laptop today instead of a quill pen. It is why we can send rovers to Mars instead of wondering if the stars are just holes in a giant black curtain. This moment matters today because it reminds us that even the smartest people in the world can be wrong if they refuse to test their ideas. The scientific revolution was not about finding all the answers. It was about finding a better way to ask questions. It taught us that, because I said so, is never a good enough reason to believe something. We live in the house that Galileo and Bacon built, where facts must be earned through evidence. History is full of moments that sound impossible, but every single one of them actually happened. That's what makes it better than fiction. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. We post every week, and every video will teach you something your history teacher hasn't mentioned yet. And drop your answer in the comments. If you could go back in time and show Aristotle one piece of modern technology to prove him wrong, what would you pick? One man's mistake lasted 2,000 years, but one experiment changed the world forever.